You walk into a job interview, a first date, a room full of strangers, and you assume that the people in front of you are forming their opinion based on what you say, how you carry the conversation, the case you make for yourself. But the research says something unsettling. They made up their minds about you in about a tenth of a second, before you said a single word. And once that snap judgment is set, it is remarkably hard to undo. Your first impression isn't the beginning of the story. It's almost the whole story. In 2006, two Princeton psychologists, Janine Willis and Alexander Todorov, put this to the test. They flashed photos of unfamiliar faces in front of people for just 1/10 of a second, 100 milliseconds, barely enough to register, and asked them to rate each face for traits like trustworthiness, competence, and likability. Then, they let other people study the same faces for as long as they wanted. Here's the stunning part. The snap judgments, made in a tenth of a second, lined up almost perfectly with the judgments made with unlimited time. Giving people longer didn't change their verdict. It only made them more confident in the one they'd already reached in an instant. This is part of something psychologists call thin slicing, our knack for drawing sweeping conclusions from the tiniest sliver of information. In a famous study, Nalini Ambady and Robert Rosenthal showed people silent video clips of teachers, just a few seconds long with no sound at all. Strangers rated those teachers on how effective they seemed, and those ratings, based on mere seconds of silent footage, closely matched the evaluations from students who had sat through an entire semester of classes. We size people up in the blink of an eye, and sometimes we're eerily accurate, and sometimes we're catastrophically wrong. Either way, we can't seem to stop ourselves from doing it. And it gets stickier because of something called the halo effect. One strong trait bleeds into everything else. If someone is physically attractive, we tend to assume they're also smarter, kinder, more trustworthy, with no evidence at all. And once a first impression locks in, confirmation bias takes over. We start noticing only the things that fit the impression we already formed and quietly ignore everything that doesn't. The judgment becomes self-fulfilling. The person you decided was cold in the first second now has to fight uphill against every neutral thing they do, because you're reading it all through that first frozen frame. So step back, and an uncomfortable truth comes into focus. You cannot stop other people from judging you in a fraction of a second. It isn't rudeness. It's an ancient survival shortcut, a brain built to instantly sort friend from threat long before there was time to think. But here's the part you can control. While you can't stop the snap judgment, you can manage the signal you broadcast in that first tenth of a second. First impressions aren't fair, but they are, to a surprising degree, manageable. So what do you actually do with this? First, treat the opening seconds as the most valuable real estate you have. A genuine smile, open posture, steady eye contact, and a warm first line will outweigh the polished things you say 5 minutes in. Second, let the halo work for you. One strong, clear signal of warmth or competence colors everything that follows. Third, respect how hard impressions are to reverse. Flipping one takes a vivid exception, repeated over time, not a single good moment. And finally, turn it around. Remember that you are thin slicing everyone too. So hold your own snap judgments loosely and give people the second chance your first impression wants to deny them. In the end, you're being read far faster than you ever realized, and you're reading everyone else at exactly the same speed. So the next time you meet someone new, remember what's really happening in those first few seconds. You are broadcasting a signal, and they are recording an impression that will be stubbornly hard to rewrite. The question isn't whether you'll be judged in a tenth of a second. You will. The question is, what do you want that tenth of a second to say? So tell me, have you ever been completely wrong about someone at first glance? What changed your mind?